The rink lights shut off. The ice begins to melt. And somehow I'm the one who feels undone. It's just minor hockey. Why does it feel like a quiet little funeral every March? If you've ever loved something that only lasts a season, then stick around, like, subscribe, and let's talk about it. This past weekend was Olivia's hockey playoffs in Lillooet, BC. And for those of you who don't know where Lillooet is, even if you live in British Columbia, it's a little ways outside of Kamloops, and I live a little ways outside of Kamloops. And so it's quite the drive, and we had to spend the weekend in Lillooet, and that's just where our playoffs were. Lillooet is gorgeous. It's a gorgeous, pretty little town. There's not a whole lot to do there. Obviously, they play hockey because their team is unbeaten this year. And they remain unbeaten. They had an absolute storybook year. But the sportsmanship from those young girls and the family and stuff of those hockey players it's unrivaled. Such a cool experience, a great little town to go and play hockey playoffs in. Had an absolute blast there, chatting with all the parents and everything. And every year, I tell myself I won't get this invested. I tell myself, hey, it's just minor hockey. It's U11 girls minor hockey. It's just early mornings, cold rinks, Tim Hortons coffee that sometimes tastes like bad ashes for some reason. And yet every year around March, when things wrap up, I get hit with like a low grade melancholy, and it just settles into me, into my bones, into my chest, and it's not about like the winning and the losing throughout the year. It's not even really truly about the development of Olivia herself, although that's a wonderful part of it. I think it's because for those few months and those weekends and those days when we have practice and go have games, it's a time out of life. Sheena comes home from work, we hop in the car and we drive out to the rink, whatever, or wherever it is that we're going. And everything else kind of fades away. All the news, all the headlines, all the BS, all the stress of life kind of fades away for a few moments when you're out there and you're watching these girls rise above adversity, and you watch them kind of go through this thing. And I actually wrote a post about it because that's what I do. I write things. And so I will share that post with you now. And hopefully you don't hate it. But I wrote, well, there it is. Another season quietly folds itself into the chilled books of minor hockey. As ice thaws and spring emerges, I can't help but think fondly on this past year. The breathless breakaways, the mesmerizing dekes, the shutouts, the blowouts, the tight games, the ties, the losses. All the highs and lows that come from watching the game of hockey sew themselves together to become a tapestry of winter and Canadiana. Years ago, I never thought I would become this emotionally invested in U11 girls hockey. But there I was this year, banging on the glass, cheering loudly, and smiling like an idiot for the girls draped in baby blue. Every play they made, each stride they took, I became more and more helpless to the whim of fandom. It sneaks up on you. 1 minute, you're just signing a registration form and figuring out skate sizes. And the next, you're pacing behind cold panes of glass, like the outcome of a Saturday morning game holds the balance of your emotional stability. Somewhere along the line, the rink stops being a building and starts being a backdrop for something bigger, something more profound. There's something about watching resilience take place in real time that is captivating. There's something honest about those sheets of ice. No filters, no curated highlights, no breaking news headlines, just effort. You see it in the awkward early season strides that slowly turn into confident edge work, in passes that miss by a mile in October, but become tape-to-tape precision by February. Growth isn't loud. It's subtle. It's a kid learning shift by shift that falling isn't fatal, and trying again is non-negotiable. You watch a group of individuals glue themselves together with camaraderie earned in sweat, bruises, and tears. They become a team. You become proud. As an adult, you understand that they are creating core memories. But to those kids, the time on that bench seems without end, like they will always be there. That's the glimmering beauty of childhood. The present is the only thing that matters. Sure, a win is nice, but an ice cream after a tough loss might just feel better than hoisting the Walter Cup. At least to a 10-year-old, that is an inarguable truth. To play the game of hockey is a privilege. To watch our mini-humans play the game of hockey, well, that is a goddamn honor. To the parents of this game, you amaze me. Your tireless effort to tie skates before the sun even yawns, the miles that stack on the odometer, facing off with a grumpy child at home only to watch them become the locker room clown at the rink, and still smiling when other parents ask you, "How are you?" What you do truly is phenomenal. To the U11 Lakers, great job, girls. You might never know this, but you have added some core memories of my own that I now get to keep and hold for years down the line. That's a pretty big win. And yeah, I confess, I had way too many concession burgers and ice cream this year. And I'm really looking forward to doing it again next year. Go, Lakers, go. I'm telling you, I get melancholy, man. There's something about the game. It's like I said before, it's not about the wins, the losses, the development. It's watching a group of kids that at the beginning of the year you barely know, and you watch them become a family, a tribe. They have inside jokes, they have nicknames, and they tap each other on the pads before face-off, and they start to just believe in each other. And that is such a cool thing to watch, because as an adult, you know how hard the world is. You know all the aches and pains that wait for them on the outside of this rink. And so when they're in this place, this simple place where there's just a sheet of ice and a puck, and the only objective is to play together. That is such a beautiful thing. I know I'm romanticizing hockey a bit too much. I get that, but it's not so much just about the game of hockey. It's just that hockey is the chosen sport for what I'm witnessing. These individuals, like I said in the post, they sew themselves together through camaraderie, blood, tears, and bruises. And they show up the very next day to do it all again, and they do it for each other. And it's so wonderful to see, because no matter how things go on the rink, no matter how bad the loss might be, a little bit of ice cream or a hug or going to the play zone with, trampolines and mini golf, and that makes it all better. Makes it all better. How nice would it be if our lives as adults could be made better by going to a trampoline park, after we go through that divorce, after we lose someone that we care about, after we don't get that job or that promotion, it's given to somebody else. Or maybe we lose our job completely, start over. Or maybe, in my case, you get told you can't do your job anymore, that who you are in uniform no longer exists, that you have to find who you are all over again in your mid-30s. How nice would it be in those moments to just go and escape for a while? And that's what this represents to me. Because no matter what's going on in life, no matter how many Irans are being bombed, no matter how many terrible, terrible hot takes President Trump has, no matter how many times Mark Carney promises something only to raise the price of something else, and all other politicians, they're doing the gook. I get to time out. I get to press time out, and I get to watch these girls play a beautiful game in a beautiful way. And I get to hang out with wonderful parents and people and know and get reabsorbed into the fact that there is really wonderful people in this life. That life isn't all headlines. That life isn't doom and gloom. There's not a nuke waiting around the corner. But there is a Jimmy. And there is a Tiffany and a Jenna and my Sheena. And there's a Kevin. And then there's little Olivia. Those are the things that matter. Those are the things that I can affect change to. Those are the things that I can nurture and grow. All this other stuff is just noise. It's clatter. Yeah, sure, it's real. It's real. It's absolutely real. And there are people going through really, really terrible hardships right now, and I'm not trying to downplay that. I'm saying when we get inundated with it and we start to find ourselves being trapped beneath the tsunami of all the negativity, it's nice to be able to just find a place where you can press pause for a few minutes. There's no guilt in that. There's no shame in that. And that's what this represents to me. It really is a beautiful, beautiful thing. It's funny because when you go and you sign that first registration form, you're not just enrolling a kid in a sport, you're enrolling yourself into a season of travel, into a season of expense, into a season of being tired, early morning practice, tournaments, and then signing yourself up to work at the tournament and to volunteer at the tournament. And so you're signing yourself up for a lot of things too. That's just how that goes. You don't really think of it in those terms when you're signing the registration form. You think, oh, I'm signing her up for hockey. She's going to play hockey, and that's how that's going to be. But it's more than that. It always ends up being more than that. And the thing for me is, like, I've worked among chaos. I've worn a uniform. I've zipped body bags, and I've seen what real loss looks like. So on paper, minor hockey, it just shouldn't rattle me. It shouldn't. But it does. It does. It does, because it's not about the game of hockey itself. It's about watching a kid exist in a world that doesn't revolve around me. And it doesn't revolve around all the things that we're being told to care about or think about or inundated with. And realizing that it's okay to just forget things for a bit, to just enjoy yourself, to find a hobby, to find a sport that you love, to find friends that you care about, to find people that are going to have your back when you're in the corners. To know that you could still come together after a tough loss. It's about the lessons. And when March comes and the hockey pads get hung up and there's no more game to prepare for, I get into a slight melancholy, because these things are great lessons to have. They're great little life rafts to have, little escapes to have when you're just trying to escape for a little while from life. Nice little timeouts to have. They're wonderful, wonderful things to have and to consider gifts. And I do consider them gifts. You know, when I'm at the rink, you know, with Olivia, you know, she's not just my stepdaughter out there. It's not just my sister. She's the goalie. So she's the best. She's the last line of defense. She's a teammate. She's a friend. She has her own ecosystem. It's her own little society of tiny little hockey penguins on skates. It's such a cool thing to see, because I'm getting front row seats to watching this little brave human being build the skills necessary to handle adversity as life goes on. And she's already faced a ton of adversity in her young life, being diagnosed with type 1 diabetes, and then on top of that, getting a diagnosis with celiac. This woman, this tiny little human who's eventually going to be a woman, has faced so much adversity. And then when she becomes a woman, she's going to face more adversity. And these little games that they play against teams that are unbeaten or against teams that are just huge. There was a girl that they played against who, I swear to God, was 27 years old and drove herself to the rink and was late to her night shift at the end of a game. Like, she was huge and just seemed totally overage. I'm sure she wasn't. But she was also a phenomenal hockey player. And I think she scored 5 of their 7 goals or something when they played. Like, it was incredible. She shoots harder than I do. I'm a grown man. I'm a 230-pound man, and she shoots harder than I do. Of course, I can't really stand on skates anymore. I used to be able to play hockey. I almost have to give back my Canadian card because I haven't played in so long, and I'll fall over if I tried. But these little things are helping her build skills that she's going to use later in life. Interpersonal skills, learning how to deal with locker room drama and deal with, like, bad employees and people on the bus, people on public trains. She's learning all kinds of skills, and it's such a cool thing to peer through the glass, look through, and know that that's what's happening. Even though she doesn't realize it's happening, but I do. And it's so cool to watch that because it's happening in a safe place. It's happening in a safe place, and we're right there if anything goes wrong. It's always going to be like that in life. We're not always going to be right there. Eventually, we won't be there at all. It's kind of a weird thing to think about, but it's true. And so I take solace. I take some comfort whenever hockey season is around, because I know that she's got those months of fun, of timeout, of just being a normal goalie in between the pipes, making huge glove saves and kicking the puck out and playing like she knows, every move in the book. And it's so fun to watch, especially when she does make those huge saves. It's fun to watch the team celebrate around her, and they go running up to her and they tap her on the head. Oh my God. Such a cool thing to watch. We live in a world that moves far too fast, but every hockey game is 60 minutes. No matter what, 60 minutes guaranteed on the clock. It could be longer, but that's what's on there. So when the world is out there moving as fast as it does, and we're getting tired, and then everyone's trying to do the thing that they got to do, or monetize this, or figure out financing that, or etc. This is a nice pause on that to kind of crawl back into your own childhood and relive those simpler moments. Your shadow self is out there skating alongside them. Pass me the puck. Pass me the puck. It's a wonderful thing. Because, you watch kids chase the puck. They fall, they get up. They laugh in the dressing room. They cry when it's the end of the year because they're going to miss each other. And then by the time summer comes, they're going to be caught up in the summer, and they're probably not really going to think about the tournament they just had until later in life. They might revisit the thought, but they live in the present. And that is such a brilliant reminder to us that we should do that more often, that we should take moments to just be in the present. When you're in the present of friends, when you're out having a wine night, or you're out with your buddy playing golf, or you're going for a walk with one of your favorite people, just enjoy it. Just enjoy the breeze. Even if the breeze is cold, enjoy the fact that you're hating it together. Enjoy the fact that it's cold together. These kids teach us that. They teach me that. They teach me that. I don't know. I know it sounds kind of silly to like talk about hockey in this way. But it is what it is. Like, I feel melancholy. It comes to me. So what do you do? What do you do with it? What do you do with melancholy when it hits you over something like this, over something that you feel shouldn't affect you? Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm not fighting it. First and foremost, I'm not fighting it. I'm letting it sit with me for a moment. I'm sitting with it for a moment. Because the heaviness means that I showed up. It means that I cared. And it means that I care about Olivia. And I care about the team. And I care about the growth of these young girls, these humans. And caring is never a bad thing. It's never a bad thing. Caring about something is inherently never negative. And so why should I try to stop myself from feeling a little melancholy now that the season has come to a close and the Lakers are going to be a different version of the Lakers next year? Because not all the girls are going up into the next level. Olivia's moving up to U13. Only a handful of girls are going to be moving up to the U13. Some might not even play. And then the other girls will stay. So that the team is changing. We're going to, possibly lose our coach and have a different coach, which means different dynamics, different people. So there's a lot of change. So this was one beautiful, brilliant moment gifted to us by the game of hockey that we now get to have and hold for the rest of our lives. So when it comes to an end, yeah, it makes sense that there's a little bit of melancholy because these moments are beautiful and they're far between in this life that moves incredibly fast. There's a lot of photos taken at the end of the tournament, at the end of the playoffs, and it's great. It's great because it's nice to have that physical memento of a moment in life lived, to be able to take it and hold it. And it's nice for these girls to be able to do that, to grab it and to hold it and to cherish it and look back on it. But it's great for us too to be able to look at it and be like, you were this young once. You were this young once. You guys really did fit on that playground. And like, I don't know. It's cool because when you zoom out, right, of this whole thing, when you zoom out of Lillooet and you zoom out of U11 playoffs, this isn't like the end, the true end. It's one installment of a greater life that these people are all going to live. Myself, Olivia and her teammates and my buddy Jimmy and his wife Tiffany and Jenna and all the people I've met through hockey, Coach Terry. It's a moment. It's a moment in time of a life lived, but it's frozen in this still. And when you look at it, it's almost a portal because for me, when I look back at a photograph, especially a meaningful one, I can remember the weather. I can remember what the sun felt like, where the sun was in the sky. I can remember what the grass felt like beneath my shoes. Was I standing on pavement or grass or dirt or mud? Was it rocks? Was it pebble? I remember all of that stuff. And so when I look at that photo for a few moments, I'm back there in that perfect moment where nothing mattered. Disease didn't matter. Money didn't matter. Relationship status didn't matter. The drive home didn't matter. The gas in the tank didn't matter. The bills piling up, none of it mattered. None of it mattered. It was just that perfect, stilled moment in time. And that's a gift. And it's a gift that you can hold physically in your hands and take with you everywhere. I mean, I got the picture on my phone. I don't want to show you the picture on my phone because it has pictures of other U11 players in there. So I'm not going to put that up on the internet, but it's such a beautiful photo. It's a wonderful, wonderful photo to have. And I think one of the things I'm learning to try and do this year is to transfer the energy. Instead of just sitting with melancholy and having melancholy be the sort of encompassing thing. I can acknowledge it. I can go, yep, there it is. There's the melancholy that I was expecting, and there's the thing. But after I accept it and after I acknowledge it, I can transfer it. I can fill that space with something else. We have a hockey rink in town here that has some cement on it. Obviously, there's no ice, especially around spring and summer, but I can go play ball hockey with Olivia down at the rink. She's got pads. We can practice and play and play some hockey together. And I could be involved in her game, shoot pucks, and have a great time together. And we can. She likes golf. We can go to the driving range together with her dad, and her dad's an amazing golfer. I almost hate playing golf with him. I say that facetiously, of course. He is a phenomenal golfer, though. Insane. Closest to scratch golfer that I've ever seen in my life. In real life. The guy is a phenomenal golfer, and it is something to watch. When you see him stripe a ball, you're like, well, yep, that's out there. That ball is sent. And I could fill my time with those things and enjoy those moments as much as I enjoyed this moment. And eventually those moments are going to lead to September, registration time. And then come October, I'm back in a cold rink. Nothing is permanent. The hockey season isn't perfect or isn't permanent. And the off season isn't permanent. Nothing in life is permanent. It all has an ebb and a flow, and it all comes around again. And next year, I'll learn new lessons, hopefully, by going to these games and watching U13 hockey now. Competition will be a little harder. The hot shots will be a little harder. Skates will be a little bit faster. It'll be a big challenge to watch Olivia navigate, but it'll be a privilege to watch her navigate it. And it'll be an honor to hang out with the parents again, because they are really great human beings, and feel pretty blessed that we were on the team that we were. Yeah, it's transfer the energy, I think, for me. Don't just sit with melancholy because it's there. Sit with it and acknowledge it, but then get up and allow that to be something constructive. Allow that to be something that turns into a positive. Much like when you lose a game, you don't just give up on the season. You show up to the practice, you work hard in practice, you show up to the next game, you tie your skates, and you go, not today. And you play. And sometimes you get that win, and sometimes you get another loss. But then you show up to the next practice, and somebody says something hilarious, and somebody plays a joke, or the coach shows up with blonde hair. He dyed his hair bleach blonde, shows up, and the girls lose their mind. That happened this year. And the same thing for this. It doesn't just have to be the sad, oh, woe is me, hockey's over. Yeah, it's sad. I'm sad. I love it. I love watching Olivia play hockey. I'm not ashamed of that. I love hanging out with the parents and talking with everybody. I'm not ashamed of that either. But there's some beautiful things to look forward to in the summer and spring as well. And so I'm going to transfer that energy and transform that energy into something positive. I know, that's just me. I'm curious though. Do you feel this too? Like anybody out there who's a parent, do you feel this too when your kid's season comes to an end, whether it's softball, baseball, hockey, basketball, volleyball, whatever it is? Do you feel that way too? Because I felt a little pang of that when Claire, she's the elder in the eldest sibling in the family there. She's 15 now, and she played volleyball this year. And at the beginning of fall, I loved going to the school and watching her play. And I found when the season was over, I had a little bit of melancholy as well, because I was like, oh man, I don't get to watch Claire and her teammates, go out and play this game anymore, and go out for Blizzard afterwards, or whatever the case may be. And I felt a bit of a pang. I felt a little melancholy then as well. And but things have been great post volleyball as well. We've found some video games together. We watch her play some video games out in the living room, and she allows us to be a part of it, and it's a really good time, right? So things evolve, things change, things move. You can acknowledge something and then still keep moving forward. Trying to ignore stuff, I find when you try to ignore things, that's where you run into problems. Because when you can't ignore it and you're still trying to ignore it, that's when you start turning to something else to help you ignore it. In my case, booze. I turned to booze when I was trying to ignore the trauma of my previous vocation and life. And so I've learned to sit with things, and I've learned to acknowledge things, and I've also learned not to give it shame. It's U11 girls hockey. 100% it's U11 girls hockey. I think I'm more melancholic over the moment being over as opposed to just the age bracket / hockey. Because it was a beautiful, blissful moment in time. But it's a beautiful, blissful moment in time that I get to keep and hold for the rest of my life. I get to carry it with me right into next season. So tell me, if you have ever felt this when your kid's season comes to an end, the weird emotional drop-off that very few people really talk out loud about, because it does seem quite peculiar on surface value, but when you really dissect it, it makes a lot of sense why you'd feel this way. And yeah, I'm curious if you want to leave a comment, let me ask you this. What is one moment from this year that you know you'll remember 10 years from now? Because I have a bunch. I'm going to put one in the pinned comment below, but I got a bunch. And if your kids are grown, tell me, does this feeling ever stop? Right? Is it just when they're kids, or does this transcend to when they're adults as well? Do you still think about those early mornings, those cold rinks, and the smell of the hockey rink, and all that tape and hockey gear smell that just has that rancid kind of damp, musty, unmistakable, plasticky, wet, fabricy. Yeah, like a pair of shin pads farted. Just let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Unwritten Chapters. I'll talk to you guys on the next one. Until then, be well, be safe. Take care.